Yesterday we learned that Yosef was taken from the prison and brought in front of Paro, and the Torah told us the dreams of Paro. Now Yosef is standing in front of Paro. He doesn't really understand what's going on. He doesn't understand exactly why he's being taken from this pit and suddenly standing in front of the king of the world. So Paro says to Yosef, sorry, went too far. Excuse me. There we go. All right, Paro says to Yosef, Shalom Abracha, Shalom. Paro says to Yosef, Chalom chalamti, I dreamed the dream. Ufoter ein oto, and there's no one to interpret it. Ani shamati alech, and I heard about you, Lemor saying, Tishma chalom liftor oto, that you can listen to dreams in order to explain them. Rashi says, what does it mean you can listen to dreams to explain them? You just say that you know how to interpret dreams. What does it mean you can listen to dreams to explain it? Rashi says, Hazin, you can listen and understand the dream. Okay, the word Shema means to understand. Habana means understand Hazana. Like we say, V'shomea Yosef. We say every day, twice a day at least, Shema Yisrael means hear, Jews. It doesn't mean hear, it means think deeply. So what does it mean? I heard you about you. This is the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. What do you mean that you ata omer tishma chalom, that you can say that you can listen to dreams and understand them, like shekin haya achrei emet, and so it will be. She'amar l'sara mashkin, that's what you remember. That's what you did to the wine minister and to the bread minister. Sipron Ali, tell me, right? So do the same thing to me, like you did to them. You listened to their dreams and then you told them. So probably it means that the wine minister told the things as they were to Paro. Or Paro understood that the ministers, Shalo Yagidu Sarah Chalomos Lanar Ivri, they wouldn't tell their dreams to a Jewish young man, Eved that was a slave, unless he must have told them, but Omer, he said, Yosef said to them, Omer, he said to them, tell me your dreams. So now Yosef is obligated to interpret the dream l'tzadik davorav in order to, right? Paro says, I know you know the dreams, and now Yosef has an obligation to justify, to verify the words of Paro. Paro said, you know how to tell dreams. So Yosef couldn't say, no, I don't know how to tell dreams. So Yosef said to Paro, Biladai. There's a lot of different explanations of this, and I'll just give, let's say, Rashi's. Says, Biladai, it's not from me. It doesn't come from me. Elohim Ya'aneh et Shalom Paro. God will answer the peace of Paro. In other words, God will put your mind to rest. He'll give you the proper explanation. Rashi says, Biladai, the wisdom is not from me, but it's God. And God will give an answer according to the, to bring a peace of mind to Paro. That's one explanation. Here's interesting. That Ibn Ezra says a different explanation. He says, Biladai, except for me. Says, what does it mean? Omer Yosef, said Yosef, Biladai Pitroni Yan Elokim, except for my explanation, also God will also answer your piece. In other words, I'll give you my explanation, but you should know that it's God is going to give you the comfort. He'll give you the certainty that what I'm saying is right. Let's just take another explanation over here. He says, Sforno, one second, where to find this? Oh, here it is. Even though you said that there's no one that can interpret the dreams, and I'm the only one that can do it, but I think that there must be somebody else except for me. In other words, Sforno is saying that, yes, you're right. I interpret the dreams, right? According to Rashi is saying, I don't interpret the dreams, it's God. According to Ibn Ezra, it says, I interpret the dreams, but together with God. I interpret with God. So Rashi is saying only God is doing it. You're saying God is doing it with me. And the Sforno is saying, Biladai means, I know I'm the one who does it, but there certainly must be somebody else in the kingdom that can do it, that can interpret dreams except for me. He says, therefore, God will answer my dream. He'll answer my dreams, and he'll give it peace in your mind. In other words, that the dream will be accepted by you. The fact is he hinted that the cholomos hochim achar yapeh. We talked about this before. The dreams are really sort of how do you say just like clay, unformed matter. And you, the one who interprets the dream, the way he interprets it, that's the way it comes out. So if Yosef gives a good interpretation, then it'll come out good. If it's a bad interpretation, it'll be bad. But the problem over here is that Paro knows that he's getting a dream. We talked about this yesterday, that his dream is not an ordinary person's dream. The Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke about this also. He said he knew that if he's getting a dream and he feels it's important, it's not like if somebody else or a big minister gets a dream. This must be a very monumental dream. And it's some sort of a tremendous importance. And also it's implying that he should do something. And that was one of the reasons why Paro did not accept the interpretations of all of his wise men and his soothsayers and his magicians and everything like that, because they weren't telling him to do anything. The dream didn't have any real implications for the whole kingdom. So Paro says like this. Now he's going to repeat the whole dream, and we know the dream already, so we'll just go over this quickly. Paro said to Yosef, in my dream, I'm standing on the river, and from the river comes 7 parot, 7 cows, briot basar, very healthy and good looking, and they are they're drinking from some sort of a river or from a marsh or something. And behold, 7 other cows come after them, and they're skinny and they look terrible. And they're rakot basar, and the flesh is like very, very empty. And I never saw anything like this in the whole history of Egypt. I never saw anything like this before. And the bad cows ate up the good cows. And the bad cows ate up the good cows, and the good cows, instead of making the bad cows full, you eat something, at least your stomach bulges out or something. It says, no, they ate them up. It was not noticeable at all that the big, healthy, fat cows went into the skinny cows at all. They looked just like they were as bad as in the beginning, and I woke up. I was afraid. Then I went back to another sleep. Then, and I saw in a second dream, and behold, there were 7 stalks that came up, 7 the tufts of wheat, and they came up on one stalk, and they were beautiful, filled and good. Then there were 7 skinny ones that were like wind blown and from the east wind, and they grew up after them. and the bad ones ate up the good ones, and I ate up the good ones, and I told to all of my wise men and my soothsayers and everybody, and no one could tell me what it was. Sforno says that he saw that all of them thought that these were two separate dreams. So the wise men gave two separate interpretations, but Paro somehow or other knew that it was really just one dream. And that's why he said, he said, and I saw in my dream here. So, Hine, no, sorry. Those say, Bachalomi, in my dream. He doesn't say in my dreams. In my dream. It was just one dream. He knew that it was divided somehow or other into two, even though he woke up in between them. Vayomer Yosef el Paro. Yosef said to Paro, I hear what you said. I get it. This is a very important dream. Chalom Paro echadu. It's one big dream. Et asher Elokim asa, what God is doing, he's telling to Paro. Says the HaChaim. It's explained, like the rabbis say, that there are three things. There's Gemara in the Talmud, page 55a in Brachot, the Talmud Brachot, says there are three things that God announces them, and they are plenty, hunger, and leaders. Who are the leaders going to be? That's what it says. That's what Yosef said. What God is about to do on his own, in his own glory, not by means of any other messenger, he's telling to Paro. These 7 cows are 7 plentiful years. The skinny ones, these are years of not plenty. So therefore he said there's 3 things that God announces: plenty, hunger, and a leader. Leader, that's what Yosef is going to say now. Said, find someone who can deal with this, who can organize everything, even though Yosef doesn't say who it is. Doesn't say, he's just telling him what the dream is. And this was a better interpretation than all of his wise men, because Yosef revealed by means of the minister of wine that he told what happened to him and all these amazing things that happened, how his brothers sold him into the land of Egypt and etc. So he said, this is a sipuk biyadallah, so it's tikkun. So now I'm telling you now that Paro has the ability, you see this amazing thing that God did, that he arranged it, that I should come down here and that I should be exactly in the time when the minister of wine and the minister of wine forgot what I told him until exactly now at this time, so that I could come out and interpret this dream to Paro. So I'm telling you about the years of plenty, the years of hunger, and finally I'm telling you, Paro, you should appoint a man, appoint somebody too. That's what the Sforno says, that there's one dream. Therefore, all of the other interpreters made a mistake, because they said it was 2 different dreams. And what God is going to do is tell to Paro. Therefore, his ministers didn't know, because it wasn't known to them in their all sorts of witchcraft or whatever. But the only one he's going to tell is just to Paro alone, right? That's why nobody else had the dream, and nobody even understands the dream except for Paro. So he says, the 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good stalks are 7 years, and it's one dream. The 7 bad cows, the 7 the thin and bad cows that come after them, this is going to be 7 years, and the 7 bad stalks are also 7 years of hunger. Oh. Okay, why does he say, he says the 7 bad cows are going to be 7 years, and these are the 7 years of bad. Here he doesn't say that the years are going to be Shiva. Here he says, when he's talking about the good ones, he says that the 7 cows, the good cows, and the 7 good stalks are 7 years. But it doesn't say it's 7 good years. It just says it's 7 years. Right? Here, look. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good stalks, the wheat, they are 7 years. It's one dream. He doesn't say it's 7 good years, just it's 7 years. When it comes to the bad ones, he says that there are 7 years that are bad. The 7 bad cows, and they came after, these are 7 years, and the 7 stalks are also 7. These are the years of hunger. But here he doesn't, when he mentions here, he doesn't talk about the years of plenty. Why all of a sudden he talks about, he interprets the bad years first. So the Ramban says, because the land of Egypt, it's nothing new to say that there's going to be good years. So therefore, Yosef, Pitro and Ara, first of all, he told the bad news, that there's going to be 7 bad years. And the 7 years that are before him, he just said it's 7 years, right? The 7 fat cows and the 7 good stalks of wheat, the bunches of wheat. It's 7 years. He doesn't say it's 7 good years. When it gets to the thin ones, he says those are 7 bad years. He says, why? Because in Egypt, there wasn't anything new that there would be good years. But the bad years, that's a novelty. Because God in his great mercy showed to Pharaoh the hunger that was going to be. It says the land of Egypt, it says, was a blessed land from God. It says, who Gagan Hashem. It said before, it said the land of Egypt is like the garden of God. It says that the Hebron is the worst part of Israel, and that another place, Tzoan, what is Tzoan Mitzrayim, is the best place of Egypt, and Egypt, like the God, is like the land, the garden of God. It's the best place in Egypt, and the worst place in Israel is Hebron, and that's better than the best place in Egypt. Okay, but nevertheless, it's a good place. And so that's the whole novelty that he began talking about the bad years to get his attention. Because the big novelty was not that there's going to be good years. The novelty that Yosef was telling was that there's going to be bad years and it's going to eat up all the plenty, and that you should save up the plenty. Usually they never save anything up. Why should they save it up? It's always good over there in Egypt. Here's the Kli Yakar. Let's take the end. He mentioned Va'ata, here says. Here, sorry. Here, Va'ata Yorei Paro, and now Pharaoh should see a proper person, and he should stand up on the land of Egypt. So the Kli Yakar says, why does he say now? Do it. Ve'ata, because God wants Pharaoh to act quickly. Therefore, he said now. In other words, immediately, Pharaoh should go and find a person that's able to manage all this, store up the food. You have to know how to store it up. You're going to have to store it up for 7 years. It's going to have to last 7 years. Even though the famine did not last 7 years, it only lasted for 2 years when Yaakov came. And we saw that there was an explanation that said that it lasted for 2 years, and then there was an interruption. And then when Yaakov died in Egypt, that the famine resumed. That's what he says. Okay. He said, that's what it says. Therefore, it was a question. Why did God show specifically to Paro such a dream like that? That's why it says that God showed it to Paro specifically, because in order that Paro would choose the proper person in order to fix this up. If somebody else would come to Paro and and tell Paro, so the Paro would say, okay, you take it. We wouldn't. So Davka Paro was the one. Yosef is saying, Paro, you have to choose somebody. Don't listen to any of your advisors. You look around and find someone that will take care of the whole land of Egypt. Okay, this is the thing that I spoke to Paro, that whatever God does, he has said to Paro. In other words, Paro, you are God's man. So behold, 7 years are coming. There's going to be a tremendous plenty in all the land of Israel, in all the land of Egypt, in all the land of Egypt. And then there's going to be 7 bad years. And you're going to forget all the plenty that was in the land of Israel. And the hunger will then decimate the whole entire land. After 7 years, it'll decimate. That's what it means. It'll be forgotten. This is what it means. Habaliyah. That's what it means that they swallowed up. Rashi says that's what it means, that the fat oxes were swallowed up by the thin ones. In other words, that there's what to eat. They'll be standing together. The 2 oxes, the fat ones and the skin ones, and the fat grains of wheat and the thin ones. But the after everything is eaten, something remains. In other words, the skinny ones still remain. So in other words, prepare so that Egypt won't be decimated totally. Just all the plenty will be decimated, but still Egypt. It says the plenty in the land of Israel won't be known because of the hunger afterwards, because the hunger will be very, very heavy. That's what it says. Lo yada. That's what it says. Lo yada ki bo kirbeno. That's what it means, that the oxes, the cows, after the thin cows, after they ate the fat cows, as the thin cows, you couldn't notice at all that they had eaten anything. They were just the same thing. That's what it means, that all of in the end, after the 7 years, that all the plenty will be consumed. Why is the dream repeated twice? Because the thing is very important, and it comes from God, and God is going to do it quickly. In other words, start saving up grain quickly. Nachon, muzuman. In other words, do it immediately. And now Pharaoh should see to it a person that's navon v'chacham, that is wise, that's understanding and wise, and should assign him as the director over all of Egypt. It says, why does he have to have a person that's so specifically smart? What does he have to have someone who's so smart for? So it says, because here, the reason that Yosef was the advisor to the king, and Yosef became the advisor to the king, and the king only asked for Yosef one thing: explain the dream, because he came to give a reason why God showed him what to do. In order that he should appoint ministers all over the country in order to gather up the wheat and to store it. And also because he showed in the dream that the fat cows were swallowed up by the thin ones. This says that the years of hunger will have to be provided for from the other years. Therefore, he says, Paro should see to it, right? That Paro should see to it. In other words, Paro, all you called me out for was just to ask me to interpret the dream. That's what I'm doing. Don't say to Paro, I can take it over. Don't worry. You decide. You have to. So the Paro says, so he said, you have to find a person that's Chacham v'Navan. What does it mean, Chacham v'Navan? why do you have to have this person that's so smart? I mean, all you have to do is just gather up the wheat. The people in Egypt, they'll do whatever Paro says. So why do you have to have such a smart person? Because you have to know the way to store this produce so that it shouldn't rot. And this, it takes a person that has tremendous understanding. It has to be ventilated and etc. That's why it says a HaChaim, that he will know all of the wisdom. He has to know all the wisdom of architecture and agriculture and mathematics, and therefore, in order to gather everything together, and he knows how to do what's proper, that the grains should last for 7 years. I mean, he's going to be gathering up these grains. It's a tremendous amount of grain. It wasn't enough just 1 year to provide for the hunger. The hunger is going to be so great that it's going to eat up 7 years, right? So you have to have 7 years of grain in order to provide for each and every year of the hunger. So that's what Yosef says. Paro, appoint people on the land. The Chumash at the Oretz Mitzrayim. And here he says Chumash means do it quickly. Zerez, hurry up the people. Hurry up the people in the 7 years of plenty. People shouldn't become lackadaisical and say, we've got a lot of plenty. That's going to be 7 years of famine. Who says? Says Paro, you should say it. Right? Get everybody. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that Das Zakenim, that when you mean Chimesh, doesn't mean to go quick. He says Paro has to take 1/5 for himself. Like it says in another place. In other words, you have to make sure how much ever they take is that 1/5 goes to you and that you retain 1/5 by yourself. They should gather up on all these years, the good years, and they should store up food, bar, tachat yad paro, and it should all be under the control of Paro. Ochel barim v'shamo, all the food of all the cities, and it should be guarded. In other words, Paro, you have to be sure that all this belongs to you. We're going to see what's going to happen soon. There's not going to be any food in the whole world, and Paro is going to own the whole world because he's going to give food to everybody. The food should be stored up from the land and from in order for the 7 years of hunger that are going to be in the land of Israel. V'lo tichreza oretz barav, so that the land won't be destroyed with hunger. Listen, it wasn't just that land. We'll see. It was not just the land of Egypt. There was the whole world. There was a hunger in the whole world. He was the only one that had. That's what he says. What does it mean? That first of all, you have to have enough for the land of Israel to provide for the hunger, and afterwards for all the other lands of the world. That's what it says. Asher achar shesipa rav Mitzrayim. That's what he says. V'lo tichas ha'oretz, that the whole world won't be destroyed. Kol ha'oretz, in other words, the whole world shouldn't be destroyed by hunger. The thing was good in the eyes of Paro and the eyes of all of his servants. He was the only one. Suddenly it made sense. And Paro said to his servants that were there, Ish asher hanimsa, I'm sorry, Avadav, to all of his servants, hanimsa kazeh, have you ever seen someone like this? Ish asher ruach elokim bo, the spirit of God is in him. Now you can ask yourself a question. I mean, how did Paro know he was telling the truth? Paro, he could have been just bluffing. But Paro sensed that the dream was very, very important. And he also sensed that no one was telling him the proper interpretation. Only Yosef was the only one. So therefore, that's what Paro said to Yosef. After he told God, you all this, there's no one more wise than you are. You will be over my household, and according to you will be provided all my people. The only thing that'll be greater is the throne. The throne will be the only thing, right, What does it mean, the throne? Rashi says they'll be calling me king. They won't call you king. You'll be called, right? They won't call you, I'll be called the king. That's what it means. The king only the throne, the throne of rulership, that'll be in my hand. Paro said, look, I've put you on all of the land of Egypt. Paro took off his ring and he gave it to Yosef, and he put on him the garments of fine garments, and he put a necklace of gold on his neck. Rashi says that giving the ring of the king, this is a sign that who is given it to, he is going to be number 2 in greatness. Now, if you remember, these were the 3 things also that Tamar, remember the whole story of Tamar and Yehuda we learned last week? She said Yehuda thought that she was a prostitute, and he said, I'll give you what type of payment do you want? And she said, give me a goat. He said, I haven't got a goat with me, so I'll leave. So she said, okay, leave a surety with me, and then I'll give it back to you when you give me the goat. What do I want? She said she wanted a seal, the ring, and she wanted a staff, and she wanted a cloak. So he didn't get exactly the staff. Instead, he put a necklace around his neck, but it's still the sign of rulership. When in the case of Yehuda, that's going to be the rulership of the Mashiach. But here also, Yosef is also something like Mashiach. Of course, there's a big difference between Yosef and Mashiach, because Yosef, he's going to secure the people. He's going to secure the world and make the world safe and make everybody, calm, feel at home. And Mashiach is going to do exactly the opposite. Mashiach is going to activate everybody. Mashiach is going to make the world dynamic, that everybody's going to be moving and doing more and improving the world. But in one way, Yosef was similar to Mashiach, is that he got Paro and all of the people in Egypt to recognize that God is the boss of the whole world. So Paro put Yosef on Merkavas of Mishnah in this chariot number 2 that he had, and he called in front of him Avrech. And it was called Avrech. What's this Avrech? He said it means Abba Lamalchut. It says, Rabbi Yehuda says, Avrech. What does it mean? Yosef. He was an Av. He was like a father. He was only 17 years in wisdom, and he was young in years. I'm sorry, he was 27 then. He was 29 years old. He was 17 years old when his brother threw him into prison, and he'd been in prison for 12 years. So I'm sorry, it was 29 years. So it said that he was young, he was old in wisdom, but he was very young in years. They said to him, who said this? This was Rabbi Yehuda. His friend said to him, you're twisting the whole Torah. The word Avrech means going down on your knees, that everyone would go down on their knees in front of him. Like it says, V'nato nato. It was okay. Paro said to Yosef, I'm Paro. Except for you, no one's going to lift up his hands or his feet in the whole land of Israel. And Paro called Yosef Tzafnat Paneach. Tzafnat Paneach, sometimes it means Tzafnat means what's concealed. Tzafon means hidden. Paneach means to explain mysteries. V'yiten lo et Asnat bat Potifara, and he gave him the daughter of Potifara, Kohen. This is Potifar. Why is all of a sudden it's called Potifara? He says this is Potifar. Why all of a sudden it's called Potifara? Potifar was the chief master of the food or whatever, Sarah Tabachim. All of a sudden he changed his name to a girl's name, Potifara, because Shinistaris Me'elav, that he became castrated automatically, because she chamed Yosef the Mishchav Zachar, because he wanted to have homosexual relations with Yosef. he wanted to have Potiphara. This is the one whose wife was screaming out that Yosef raped me. In Egypt, everybody was obsessed with sex. It says that there's even a commandment in the Torah: don't do like the people of Egypt. From there, they learn lesbianism is forbidden and all these other things because they just did everything you could possibly imagine. Right? They do it. I mean, don't imagine it. We'll talk about something else, but in any case, so part two, it says Potiphar, he wanted to have this relations with Yosef, so God caused him to be castrated. He would decide. Okay, so his name is now Potiphara. Anyway, somehow or other, he managed to have a daughter, Potiphar, whatever it's called, and his wicked wife. They had a daughter, and this daughter gets married to Yosef. Of course, she has to change religion. And Yosef was now 30 years old when he was standing in front of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Yosef came in front of Pharaoh, and he stood all over the whole land of Egypt. And then in the 7 years, okay, and this is where we're going to stop today. And tomorrow, God willing, we will continue. Have a good day with Mashiach now.